the toxic relationship starts with yourself, and then it spreads like a virus into other relationships, right? And that's not what they teach you at school. That's not what they teach you in college. That's not what they teach you at work, right? What we learned is we point fingers over there, right? The problem is there. The problem is in the world. The problem is in politics. The problem is in, how that person is running his business. The problem is in how that person is treating his child. The problem is in how that person is talking to his neighbor. The problem is in how that person is doing this and that. We've got to take ownership of the inner game and the inner conversation and understand how that's affecting the reality around us. Hi, everybody. My name is Mahima, and I'm excited to be here with you today on this amazing Sunday. Wherever you are in the world, I hope that you spend a great day with your family and friends, or just being by yourself and enjoying the beauty of life. So I'm excited here today to share with you the 3 steps that I have on how to exit from toxic relationships. Now, this is a hot topic because, again, some of you who are joining me live for these events, I asked all of you beautiful angels what you wanted to discuss on this topic, and that's what I heard. Yes, that's what I heard that you wanted to discuss. So I thought, okay, let's go into it. Let's hack this idea. Yeah, let's hack this idea of, first of all, the concept of toxic relationships is something that we very easily come to, let's say, conclusions about our relationship without having a look at the bigger picture of where our relationship issues started, right? So if your family life has been anything like my family life, when I was being brought up, in Zimbabwe, I was born in 1971. So growing up as an 80s, 90s kid, right? It was a time where there was a lot of stress in the country that I was. Apartheid, some of you may know what this means. It is a philosophy which basically separates and segregates people, right? So if you think about that, that's a toxic system to have, where you have, white people living here, black people living there, Indians living over there, and pitting everyone against each other in hierarchy, saying, well, we're better than you, or this is, we're the better community, and so forth and so on. So that, if you look at that, that's a toxic system. And I was brought up in that toxic system that was going on in my culture, in my country, right? As I'm in my most formative years, like you're getting all these inputs. They say that from the age to 0 to 5 is where you're actually already locking in a lot of your belief systems and what you believe about yourself and the world. So I want us to understand, when we talk about toxic relationships, that we don't just look at what's current, like the current landscape, but we go out to the bird's eye view and we start to try to really understand what that means on a cultural level, on a religious level, on a school level, on a family level, right? So how far does the toxicity go? And so, the Mahima Mindset and the Own Your Superstar trainings are events where we get to explore. And the people that come to our events come from all over the world. Yeah, we have people from all nationalities, all religious backgrounds, all looking for answers to how can I be a better human being and connect with other humans in a more profound and beautiful way. Because that's ultimately what gives us the most joy, right? Of course, connecting with yourself in peace and feeling stillness and peace within your own heart. That's the source of beauty, of life, to feel comfortable in your own skin. And then when you can translate that beauty and that comfortableness and that joy that you feel into your relationships, how beautiful and amazing is that? So now you have one person that you get on very well with on this planet, which is yourself, and then you just start to expand that network of joy and connection with other people. Right? So that's what I want you guys to be thinking about when you think about toxic relationships. Let's go deep. Let's not just zoom into my boss is and myself. That's great. That's one relationship for sure. Need to work on that and think about it. But where does all of this toxicity come from, and how can we better transform it? Is by understanding the deeper layers of what that means. Some of us are in a toxic relationship with the country that we're living in. Yes, yes, yes. That because relationship is not just with people. You're in relationship to nature. You're in relationship to the cultural background. You're in relationship to the world. You are relating continuously to the world around you. Right? So you can be in a toxic relationship with yourself. You can be in a toxic relationship with the country you're living. You can be in a toxic relationship with your job and your co-workers. So I don't know how deep it goes for you, but for me, it went deep. When I started doing this work, I had to really examine. And that examination doesn't end. It's a continuous journey of learning and growing, right? And that's the beauty of it. So what I want you to think about, I'm going to share 3 points to assist in dealing with toxic relationships and trying to figure out how to get yourself out of them. But I've just shared something very profound right off the top here about how I would love you to change your perspective on understanding that the toxic relationship starts with yourself, and then it spreads like a virus into other relationships. Right? And that's not what they teach you at school. That's not what they teach you in college. That's not what they teach you at work, right? What we learned is we point fingers over there, right? The problem is there. The problem is in the world. The problem is in politics. The problem is in, how that person is running his business. The problem is in how that person is treating his child. The problem is in how that person is talking to his neighbor. The problem is in how that person is doing this and that, right? And I'm here to bring the conversation to leadership training, which is, let's first talk about how are we treating our neighbors? How are we operating? And if you're like me, and you can really look at yourself honestly in the mirror, you will see that there's all this beautiful side of you, and your brilliance, your joy, your laughter, all of that. But there's also this other side, this toxic side, this hurt side, the side that blames and accuses and rejects and complains, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but it's important for us to understand what's going on inside of ourselves if we want to be better leaders, right? We've got to take ownership of the inner game and the inner conversation and understand how that's affecting the reality around us. So let's dive straight into it. There's a chat here over there. If you guys want to leave comments, I would really love to hear your comments. And also, if you want to, spend more time with me, I will be doing a 3-day training that's coming up. Not this week, obviously not this weekend, next weekend. So starting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to be deep diving, hacking our systems, and really examining on a very deep way how we can show up more powerfully during these extraordinary times that the world is requiring us to be even more grounded, even more connected to ourselves, and even more aware of how we can impact the world and how we can transform the world. So let's get into the first part of my talk. So the first one is get out of victim mindset, right? How to exit out of toxic relationships with yourself, with your coworkers, with the world. Get out of victim mindset. First of all, become aware that there is something like a victim mindset, right? And the victim mindset is all about blame. It's all about it's someone else. It's because of what someone else did that I'm feeling this. Okay. And if you would stop doing that, I'd be happy. Yeah. If they'd stop, all of that stuff they're doing, I'd actually feel great. And we're not aware we're doing it because it is part of how it's ingrained in the culture. The victim mindset is ingrained in the culture. And of course, because of the suffering, like my grandparents suffered, because they didn't get the education that they deserved, because they were treated in a way that they didn't deserve to be treated. But that was just the way things were in Zimbabwe, apartheid. So my grandmother and my great grandmother and those people that came before me, right, didn't have it fair. So of course they felt like victims of a system. Okay. But we can either stay as a victim of a system, or we can become the leaders that transcend and find ways to change the system, right? So the people that have managed to change the system, if you're looking at Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, they had to overcome the victim mindset in order to speak a language of empowerment, to be able to be the change in the world, be the voice. And yes, it's risky. When everyone's in the victim blame mindset, it's risky to stand up and say, oh, I've got another way of thinking about this. I've got another way of doing this. Yeah, and it did. If you look at those two people I mentioned, one, it cost them their life, and the other person ended up in jail, right? But again, I'm not saying you need to go to jail or risk your life. I'm just asking you to decide what your life is going to be and what your legacy is going to be about. And if you want to talk about toxicity, let's look inside before we start projecting our story of toxicity out into the world, right? Let's heal and clean up here by getting out of victim mindset and saying, yes, my past was this, but my future is going to be this. I got to redesign a future that had nothing to do with my past because of the teachers and mentors and guides that I allowed to come into my life and inspire me. Through that inspiration, I've been able to achieve extraordinary things in my life that I could only really dream about in my wildest dreams. I quit school at 16 because I was being sexually abused from my stepfather. I had to get out of the house and I had to stay on my own 2 feet at the age of 16. I just celebrated my 49th birthday, and last year, our company, before all of this happened, we reached beyond 7 figures, like multiple 7 figures in our business. We traveled all over the world. I was in London, Paris, Milan. We went to San Francisco, San Diego. We were in where else? We went so many places. Vienna. We were in Vienna. We're in Germany. And doing all this extraordinary change in the world. Now, I could never have imagined that. Had I stayed in victim mindset, I could never have accomplished any of these things. So that's why I'm excited to help other people do what I did, which is get out of your victim mindset, get out of your misconceptions of how you see the world. When you talk about toxicity, toxic relationships, let's look at the toxic relationship that's happening here. And let's change that. So the first thing is getting out of the victim mindset. Second thing that you need to do is you need to go into carefrontation. Care, and this is a word I learned from my amazing coach, Lisa Nichols, right? Carefrontation. So you need to carefrontate, first of all, yourself. Yeah. And that's the hardest person to carefrontate. That's the hardest person to go, how are you responsible for some of what's happening in your life? Yeah. So if your life isn't going as you want, like my husband and I at one point found ourselves bankrupt. Yeah. And yes, his business partners had swindled him and did all kinds of horrible things that weren't very nice. And we found ourselves in that situation. Now, we could have stayed in the victim mindset, feeling sorry for ourselves of how these guys had taken advantage of us and what assholes they were, and being just like, and stayed there and probably just molded there for a long time. Okay. Now, when you use these strategies and techniques that I'm teaching you, you will move faster out of situations in your life that are not ideal. So when we were able to go, how did we contribute to what just happened to us? Which signs didn't we listen to? And we found out we had the intuitive knowledge, first of all, not even to deal with these guys in the first place. Like I remember saying to my husband, listen, I think that these are not the right people to be working with. We overrode that. And that intuition didn't come to me once, it came to me several times. And several times I said, I think we're in bed with the wrong people, right? So this is the first thing. You look back and you realize that you were actually downloading information from your soul, because I believe that when you're connected to your soul, your intelligence is much, you receive information about everything you need to understand where to go, what to do, with who to do it, so you can be more successful. Because we're living in a friendly universe that wants nothing more than for us to succeed. So being able to understand that you're not a victim of what's happening, you are in charge, you made decisions that led to that, what just happened, right? There's a series of things that happened. And I can take some stories that we've seen played out in the news, and I can look at this with my, let's get out of the victim mindset and let's get into how do we take ownership of some of the things that are happening. And you start to understand what I'm saying, right? You can see where a different decision could have made and a different outcome may have happened, right? So we need to start owning that we're carefrontate ourselves. How are my decisions affecting my reality? How are my thoughts affecting my reality? How are my actions, my daily actions, affecting the results that I'm trying to create in my life, right? And when we can carefrontate ourselves, therefore we start to engage with other people on a higher vibrational frequency, because we're giving ourselves, we're listening to ourselves, we're respecting ourselves, and therefore we're able to understand that we can ask that from these external relationships. So when you say, I'm in a toxic relationship, how did you get there? What did you say yes to that you should have said no to? Yeah. When did you let the thing go on for way too long when, you could have said, look, it felt this isn't right. I don't deserve this, right? And I need to change this. So now is the good opportunity to start listening to yourself, getting to a healthy relationship with yourself so you can create healthy relationships with others. So that's carefrontation. So one of the things that I'm here to enjoy with you guys. Hold on, I'm using this platform which is new to me, so bear with me as I try to figure out what I just did. Somehow I put a comment on the screen. Okay, I don't know how to get that away. So let me just continue. Okay, so I want you guys to really think about, do you want to spend more time in the very near future understanding some of the stuff that I'm talking about in a more profound way? Yeah, because I've been on this journey my whole adult life, so it's actually impossible for me to put all of this, great, not only just give you some ideas of how you could transform, but also put things into a deeper level of let's say clarity, and give you tools. So we're not just having this conversation, but I actually want to give you tools that you can go away and actually use to start creating this type of change that we're talking about. Okay. So we're going to be having a 3-day event. I told you about it already. It's called the Own Your Superstar Training, and it is 3 days online where I'm going to be with my amazing team. I have an embodiment expert that's going to be with me, really showing you how to get all of this juicy wisdom embodied, because that's really the thing that's going to push the needle forward, is not just understanding it with your mind, but putting it into your DNA so it becomes cellular learning. So we're going to be doing a lot of exercises, a lot of things that actually move and shape and transform you on a cellular level. And that's what I'm really excited about, getting the conversation away from the head into the heart and into your body, into where you feel the transformation, you feel the shift, you feel the change, and you're not just like, oh, I like that concept, but I don't really know what to do with it, right? So we want to get to deeper layers. So the last thing before I'm going to end this today is to share the last point about getting out of toxic relationships, and that is working on forgiving yourself. Okay, work on forgiving yourself. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated, right? Because when we've engaged in things that are not good for us, We usually feel like we need to forgive that person for not showing up powerfully, forgive that person for not doing this or hurting us or whatever it is, right? When really what we want to do is forgive ourselves for not being kind enough to ourselves. Yeah. Forgive ourselves for not listening to our intuition. Forgive ourselves for not taking the time to deepen that relationship with ourselves. So that's really the real work around toxic relationships. Obviously, forgiving the other person is key, but most importantly, it starts here. Because if you start trying to forgive somebody over there, it might feel really hard. Like, I can't really do that, right? Because the truth is, the forgiveness needs to happen here first before it can happen over there, right? And most of these toxic relationships, they do bring out the not so good side of us. So what we usually find is that we find ourselves behaving in a way in those relationships that is not who we want to be. We find ourselves being frustrated or angry or sad or aggressive or whatever it is. We're just not able to show up as the light, joyful, spirited people that we are. So that's really the thing that makes us the most anxious in these type of relationships, is that it brings the worst out in us, right? So being able to forgive yourself for not being perfect, for not being able to, let's say, handle all situations in the way that you think you should, and therefore you can actually start to show up in those other relationships with more compassion. So it was a bit of a complex topic today because I did take a different spin on it than maybe you expected. But let me run through those three things about how to exit from toxic relationships. The first thing is get out of the victim mindset. Super important. And it's not just, like I said, I don't want you to just understand it here. I want you to really feel it. When students come on our campus, we really give them the tools, help them, that they really start to own their decisions, own their own feelings, own their energy, and they start to be able to create magic in their life because of that. The other thing is confrontation, being really honest with yourself on a daily basis, saying, where did I, what of this can I own? How did I co-create this experience with the universe, right? And the last one is working on forgiving yourself, right? To forgive yourself for whatever decisions you make or whatever things you do that would lead up to certain things happening. And I think that no matter what's going on in your life, we do have choices, and sometimes it's not easy to make choices that really move us forward. So that's it. And somebody is saying here, the US is out of control, 400 years of toxicity. Absolutely, right? And I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I'm just saying, let's be the change that we want to see in the world. Yeah, I do believe that if every single human can come from all different nationalities and come together and say, where am I not being the best version of myself? And that's not a conversation you can do on your own. I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't even think about that by myself. I had mentors, teachers that taught me systems, taught me philosophies, taught me things that I could do to understand that and raise my game and get out of that toxicity with the cultural beliefs, with all the things that are going on. So that's what I'm saying. Let me be your guide. Let me be the person who takes you on that journey. If you feel in your heart that you feel connected to me and what I have to talk about and what I have to share with you, then come along and join me. If this 3-day event is not for you for whatever reason, but you're kind of curious about seeing what's happening, go to themahimamindset.com and get my Own Your Superstar ebook, and I'm happy to see you somewhere along the journey. But take advantage of this if it's right and if it's the right time for you. I love you guys so much. Thank you for spending this time with me. I will be back here tomorrow talking about how to make true friends. Because if we're talking about how to get out of toxic relationships, I think it's so important to talk about how to really get connected with other people so that you can have the quality of the relationships that you deserve to have, and that can help boost your life. Because if your relationships with people are great, your life is great. Because really, that's why we're here, to have fun, and to not just to have fun, to understand deeper what's happening in this big old world, in this big old universe, right? It is a game of consciousness. You came into this world with nothing, you're going to leave with nothing. So the game here is to understand the deeper levels of life and why we're here. Play the game smart, Play the game with consciousness. See you guys tomorrow if you want to join me to find out how to make true friends. Love you guys and thank you. Have an amazing Sunday. Bye-bye. See you soon. This has been amazing.